This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
Welcome, my friends, to the show World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment. I'm your host, Carl Gruber. And our guest is Pericles Rellas, a prosperity coach who has worked with tens of thousands of people around the world for the past 25 years to live lives of power, purpose, and prosperity. I love that part already. When he first began his coaching business, he noticed that his clients exhibited what he calls a condition around money. Regardless of how much more they made, their situation and experience around money remained the same. You know, people know these things: stress, anxiety, dread, and just treading water or being behind. Now, he knew there had to be something causing these phenomena, so he set out to understand what they were and how they could be transformed. He then created his abundance and prosperity programs and now calls it Resetting Your Financial Thermostat. So with that, welcome to the show, Pericles. I love it.
Carl, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
You know, I love it too. Pericles. I bet you don't know anybody else with that name.
I actually have a cousin named Pericles. It's a family name.
Well, I think I saw you have Greek heritage, right? Yeah.
Yes, my grandparents were Greek immigrants.
Wow, that's great. Was Pericles in mythology? Probably, right?
He was actually the king of Greece. He was a real person. He was a historical character. I think it was around the 450 BC. He was a Greek statesman, Greek military leader, ultimately a Greek leader, and king of Greece. He rebuilt the Parthenon at the Acropolis. Yeah, some really rich history there.
That means you have royalty in your blood. I love it.
I don't know about that, but certainly the name.
Well, you know, after 194 episodes of this show, you are the very first money mindset coach I've ever had on the show. And I'm sure many of my viewers and listeners are wondering, what does this have to do with spirituality, metaphysics, and enlightenment? And I'm looking forward to discussing this with you. But first, you know, I'd really like to find out more about you as a person. I read you started your young life out in the world of theater and show business.
Yes, I came from a show business family. Both my parents were in the theater, my mom in live theater, my dad in television as a writer. And so it was kind of in my blood. That's what I wanted to do. And as I was in, elementary school, junior high school, I was always in the play production classes, then moved on to working in professional theater as a production stage manager and a company manager. Did that for many years. And then just kind of ran to the end, got to a place where I was like, this just isn't what I want to do anymore. And I loved working with the talent, both in front of the camera, behind the camera, on stage, backstage, but it just ran its course for me. And so I started to turn my thoughts and focus inward and looked at, okay, who am I and what is my place in the world and what do I want to do? And that's where I really began my own journey of self-exploration and started working as a coach. And as you said earlier, I noticed this pattern with my clients. The intention was for them to make more money, and they did, but they demonstrated the exact same pattern over and over again, which was they were still stuck in the same place they were before they started making a lot more money. And that's when I started on the journey of, okay, well, what is this? Why is this happening? And I created my 4 keys to resetting your financial thermostat. And the financial thermostat, it can be called your money mindset. It can be called your spiritual block, whatever you want to call it. But it regulates how much money we can make, how much money we can keep, as well as our thoughts, feelings, and emotions around money. So I started delivering this education as I was creating it to my clients, and the results were extraordinary. And then one person told another person, and they wanted somebody else to work with me, and it kind of blossomed from there. But what started as a business conversation has evolved over the last 25 years into a deeply spiritual conversation, deeply energetic conversation. And so as it's grown and morphed, I enjoy having these conversations at deeper and deeper levels so that people can really understand that their relationship to money is a reflection or a mirror of their relationship to themselves and the world around them.
Well, that is quite a transition. I mean, going from theater to becoming an abundance and prosperity coach. I mean, when you were in a theater and you decided to make this transition, were you particularly good at attracting financial abundance in yourself? And is that why you decided to help other people with it?
It's a great question. I think what happened and what I noticed, but not until after I started this education, was that I had a glass ceiling. I had a financial thermostat setting that really limited how much money I could make and how much of that I could keep. And as I started to apply the distinctions in the education to my own life, I noticed those things and I was able to clear those blocks out and increase the amount of money that I was able to not only make, but the amount of money that I was able to keep. And I think most importantly, my experience of myself, my experience of life, I found a place of satisfaction, a place of joy and contentment, a place of enough. And that gave me the power and freedom that money could never have provided me. And so it's that journey and that process that I love sharing with people.
At that point in your life, when you were transitioning out of the world of theater into being a prosperity coach, did you have a particular person or model that influenced you in help you transition into the abundance mindset?
Yeah, I think that there were several modalities that and I continue to study to this day. It's never, one of the things I've discovered is we've never arrived. And the minute we say we've arrived, we've actually lost the battle. We've ended up reverting back because we're either expanding or we're contracting. And so for me, I started with my very first course or program in self-exploration was with a company called Landmark Education. I did the Landmark Forum and was just extraordinary in opening my eyes up to that there was more available than I actually thought. See, I thought I knew everything. I thought I had all the answers. I thought I was where I needed to be. And there was a moment that I saw in that work, oh my gosh, there's this whole world that I had no idea existed. I didn't know what I didn't know, as they like to say. And so that cracked open, and suddenly I started down the path of learning more about myself, learning more about being a leader, more about contributing and making a difference in the world. And it became less about me and more about others. And then from there, I continued on that journey, and I've studied, Stoicism, and I've studied Abraham Hicks, and Law of Attraction, and Course in Miracles, and, just anything I can get my hands on, I'm looking at to see what is it that's going to make a difference for me? Because there is no one answer for everyone. There is no right answer for everyone. There's only the answer that's right for you in that moment. And so I grab a hold of what I grab a hold of, whether it's meditation and visualization, and I use it until I've run the course with it, and then I move on to the next thing. And sometimes I'll circle back, because it isn't like this is the answer for the rest of my life. This is the answer for right now. And as long as it's bringing me that sense of satisfaction and joy and happiness in my life, I'm going to pursue it. And then it may run its course and I'm like, you know what? I don't think that's it anymore or for right now. So I'm going to try something new and grow and go to the next level.
Yeah, that's great. We're always growing in some way, shape, or form. And yes, we do contract. Sometimes it's kind of like the two steps forward, one step back, or. But I don't know. I may be the worst person in the world to even be talking about financial abundance. I don't know if I'm any different than most of the population. But why is it that money and prosperity are perhaps one of the biggest issues that literally every person in the world has problems with? I mean, there seems to be an all-pervasive attitude of lack throughout most of humanity. Why is that?
I think that it's twofold. One is especially in the United States, it's a little bit different in some European countries because they have a different relationship to money. And then you start getting into Asian countries and they have a different relationship to enough and being happy. But in the United States, what I've noticed is we live in a culture where everyone's supposed to be the player. Everybody knows about money. Everybody wants to look like they've got wealth. And yet, when we were kids, at least when I was a kid, nobody talked about money. Nobody taught me about money. Money was a taboo subject. We did not discuss it. And so then we grow up, and now we're living in, a social media world where everyone looks like, "Ooh, I've got all this money," and yet I've never actually been educated about money. I don't even know the fundamentals about money, and yet I want people to think I'm this type of person. And so we end up working with and interacting with something that we don't understand. And it can be very dangerous. I say this in my masterclass, people would never interact with electricity beyond flipping a switch on, right? And yet the way we interact with money, it would be like ripping the wall open and pulling out wires and touching them together. And we have no idea what we're doing. And yet that's what we do with money every single day. And then people say, well, electricity is different. It can kill you. Money is exactly the same thing. You look at the crash that we had back in, I don't remember when it was, 98, or the dot-com bust, right? We look at back in the Great Depression. People lost everything. They lost their homes. They lost their families. Many people lost their lives. It is exactly the same thing. And when we start relating to it in the same way, suddenly we start to have a different respect for it. We start to understand that I need to understand what I'm dealing with, how I'm interacting with it, because money is a currency. And as a current, it flows just like a current, like water or electricity or wind. Now, when we understand that, we can then interact with it in a way that amplifies our own life, that gives us more joy and satisfaction. And we can then interact with it in a way where it wants to be with us more. Very much like I like to draw the correlation of a significant other, or a relation with a significant other. If we interacted with a significant other the way most of us interact with money, we would be single very quickly. I want money now. I want as much of it as I want. I want it to show up when I want it. I want to use it for whatever I want to use it for. I have no appreciation for that, but I just want more of it. I want to show it off to all my friends and go around and have everybody look how cool I am with this great money that I have. And then when it's not there, I'm not thinking about it. I'm not paying any attention to it. Well, if that's the way we treated a significant other, we would be single very quickly. But what if the moment that person showed up in the room, we were so grateful and so appreciative of the fact that they're with us? What if when they're not with us, all we're thinking about is, how can I be a better person in this relationship? How can I understand them more? How can I understand us together more so I can grow and expand that relationship? I think back to the movie As Good as It Gets with Jack Nicholson, where he said, "You make me want to be a better man." What if we related to money in the same way? I want to be better in this relationship. Suddenly, we would start to relate to money differently. Money would want to be in our life. We would love when money is in our life. And then we would think about it in a way of not just disappearing it, but actually having it be bigger and better in our lives.
Man, I love that image and that analogy of money and electricity, like ripping
Mm.
wires out of the wall. And right, money is called currency, so it's a current like electricity
hmm
that flows.
Yep. Yes, exactly. And the point of that is, again, we would never interact with electricity beyond what we understand without expanding that knowledge or calling in an expert and learning about it. Now, one of the pitfalls of money is, and I see this all the time, and people will say this to me all the time, well, I'm just going to hire somebody out. I'm just going to hire a professional to handle my money. And that is a very, very irresponsible way to deal with money. And again, going back to the relationship scenario, let's say we have a child and we say, you know what, I don't know how to be a parent. I'm just going to hand the kid over to somebody else. But I don't know anything about them. I don't know anything about how they're going to interact with my kid. I don't understand any of the fundamentals of how a kid should be raised, but I'm just going to turn it over to this complete stranger. Well, we would never do that with a child. Why would we do that with something so as important as money? You know, financial advisors are not all bad by any means. There are some that are extraordinary. But it is a very easy way to get separated from our money when we just blindly hand our money over to someone we don't know and we don't understand what they're going to do with our money. They could be doing things with it that are going to benefit them more than us. They could be doing things with it that would put us at risk, but not them. So we want to have that understanding before we would hand it over to someone else.
Yeah, boy, I'm really glad I'm talking to you about this because I really don't think that people take the time to think of money in these aspects. You're right. It's just something in your wallet and something you got to pay
Right.
bills with.
Right. And there's a lot of resentment around money as well. Money is one of the, and this goes back to your original question is, why is this such a pervasive issue? Is money is one of the things that everyone has to deal with at some point in their life. There are a lot of people you can go through your whole life never having a relationship, never be having a best friend, never driving a car, never doing certain things. We can go through life without doing those. Money, no. Every single one of us at some point in our lives has to interact with money, and yet is the thing that we're trained in the least. If you want to go drive a car, there's a lot you need to go through to learn how to drive a car, right? But we don't relate to it that way. And so we grow up thinking, oh, well, I'm just going to interact with money. And suddenly, if you're like me, by the time you hit 25 or 30, you've got a tremendous amount of credit card debt and you have no idea how it got there and you don't care. All we think about is minimum payment. All I have to do is make the minimum payment every month. That credit card's full, keep making the minimum payment. Ooh, I got another credit card offer. I'm going to do that. But hey, all my friends think I'm really wealthy because I drive in a car I can't afford. I'm wearing clothes that are all bought on a credit card and, I'm going into debt. And it's that mindset that we live in, I think, as a general rule, not everyone certainly, but as a general rule, that's the world we live in. And if you're like me, I remember when I was very young, somebody said, Pericles, you're going to always have debt. Don't worry about it. Okay, I'm going to always have debt. That was the world that I lived in. That was the mindset that I had. And so as the debt piled up, I never really thought it was a bad thing. I never thought about it as a concern because I'm going to always have debt. Now I'm really clear that there are certain kinds of debt that are good and certain kinds of debt that are never going to lead to wealth and prosperity. And I make those distinctions and I make choices that are consistent with me creating and building wealth rather than me creating and building debt.
Well, I'll tell you, just listening to you talk, I'm getting very introspective on my own thoughts and paradigms, and I'm sure many of the viewers and listeners are doing the same thing. So I really appreciate you explaining that. Now, let's dive a little more deep into the energetic and metaphysical aspects of money. I mean, money is an energy, money is a concept, and it's said that there is an eternally flowing stream of wealth, prosperity, and abundance that flows through the universe. What are your thoughts on this?
This is a brilliant kind of bifurcation of the conversation because I love this. This is one of the distinctions I have around money is, as you said earlier, it flows like a current, like electricity or water or wind. However, it has a distinct way in which it flows, and that is that it flows in a circle. And as you say, it's a universal band of energy. And a band is something that flows in a circle. It is never ending. And so we intersect this flow of money. It flows to us, through us, and away from us, and then back around to us, through us, and away from us. And then there's this reservoir on the side that we get to keep. Now, because money flows in this ever and never ending circle, blocks anywhere in that flow are blocks everywhere in that flow. Now, I'm about to share with your audience why, if you're someone who follows Abraham Hicks, law of attraction, you're somebody who wants to manifest, you're somebody who does affirmations, and you want to create the kinds of things that you want in your life, but they're not happening. I don't know why it's not working for me. I don't know why manifestation is not working for me. I don't know why the affirmations aren't working. All of those things. It's because we have blocks in the flow of that money. And those blocks in the flow are like the foundation of a house. And if that foundation is cracked or broken, no matter what you try to build on top of it, it's always going to collapse. And this is why manifestation doesn't work for a lot of people. It's because they need to clear those blocks out first. So blocks in the flow of money coming to us can look like money's the root of all evil. I hate the wealthy. I hate my boss. I think that people who are rich have gotten there by some, bad way. They're not good people. Those are all blocks in the flow of money coming to us. We can't become that which we resent or that which we hate. And until we clear those blocks out, I don't care what you do to manifest. I don't care what visualization you do. I don't care what kind of focus you bring or affirmations you do. Those blocks are going to be poison to the creation of that. So anything that starts to root is going to immediately die because those blocks, those negative thoughts are going to kill it. Same thing with money flowing away from us. If you're somebody who hates to pay taxes, I hate paying taxes. I hold on to every penny. I never want to spend money. I never pay retail. I always want somebody to knock the price down. Those are all blocks in the flow of money going away from us. And again, all of those blocks are blocks everywhere in the flow, including that reservoir on the side that we get to keep. So we want to look at, well, what are those blocks that I have in my life? And then what do I need to do to clear them?
Being a student and a teacher of the law of attraction myself, I think one of the first things that we learn, and we're talking to people who say, and you already kind of stated this, I can't seem to manifest this money I want or whatever it is you want, that if you're trying, or if you want something so much and you're trying too hard, you're actually not allowing that stream of eternal wealth, prosperity, and abundance to flow accordingly, naturally. And wanting something so hard is an energetic block, right?
Correct. Because, and this is when Abraham and Hicks is talking about allowing, which you just said. So here's an example. Somebody says to me, I want to manifest more money in my life. I want money to flow in my life, abundantly. Okay, great. So we create that and then they go about their day. And I say, okay, where did money show up in your life? It didn't show up. Well, I don't understand. What do you mean it didn't show up? It didn't show up. You didn't see money anywhere. You didn't see money anywhere in your day or any possibility of money. Well, if I think about it, I saw a penny on the ground. I said, okay, great. Did you pick it up? No. Why would I pick up a penny? It's a penny. And that right there is an energetic shift from allowing that money to be flowing into my life to, no, I don't want that money. I only want a certain kind of money. And so we've now killed off, or as Abraham says, pinched off that allowing that possibility of the universe actually putting money in front of us. So the energetic vibration goes from, I want money to flow to me freely and abundantly all day long, every day, to, no, I only want a certain kind of money. And that vibrational shift immediately kills off all the other vibrational shifts. And it's going back to that relationship scenario, that analogy. Imagine that your significant other, you love them, you want them in your life, and they come in the room and you're like, oh, but they have the ugliest hands. I don't want anything to do with their hands. Well, how do you think they're going to feel? Well, that's the same thing about that penny on the ground or that nickel on the ground or that dime or dollar or whatever it is. We want to allow that money to flow into our lives. We want to be open to it and looking for it. And every opportunity, we want to acknowledge and be grateful for it, whether we take the opportunity or not. One year, I found almost $800 in found money. In the course of a year, just going around saying, oh, there's a penny. Thank you for putting this money in front of me, putting it in my life. I even will see sometimes money that I can't get to because it's either dangerous or it's just, I can't get to it. It's somewhere, through the bars in a fence or something like that. But I will still acknowledge it. And I will thank the universe for showing me that money is everywhere in my life. And if it's something I choose not to take because it's dangerous, I will say that. Thank you for showing me that money flows abundantly in my life every single day. And I'm choosing not to take this money because it's dangerous. But thank you again for putting it in front of me. Same thing for opportunities. We will go through our life and somebody will say, you know what, I'm thinking about starting this business and I'm looking for blah, 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 blah. We don't even listen. That's not what I want. Rather than, wow, this is an opportunity. I'm going to look at this opportunity. I'm going to have this conversation. I don't need to say yes, but at least I'm allowing all of those opportunities. That keeps that vibrational frequency consistent. But the minute we start killing those possibilities off, rather than acknowledging them, being grateful for them, moving and saying, making the choice of this is not for me to pursue, but thank you for putting it in front of my life. We keep that energetic vibration consistent. It's when we start shift, and it's very subtle. We start shifting that vibrational frequency, and suddenly, law of attraction, we're going to attract that which we want. And we're going to limit those possibilities, or we're going to kill those possibilities off completely. And then the other part of it is when we start saying, okay, I want money to flow easily and abundantly in my life, freely in my life, or whatever that looks like, but it'll never happen for me. You're too stupid. You're not worthy. Money is the root of all evils. Those negative thoughts, they need to be cleared out. Or as I said earlier, they're going to poison anything that we put on top of it. It is not going to work. That is why we want to be able to look at how we're thinking and what that vibrational frequency is. Because in that moment, we've shifted our vibrational frequency to, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. So how do we clear those blocks out? I can take you through my 4-step process if that's something you'd like me to do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Great. So first and foremost, when one of those negative or those blocks in the flow shows up, whatever it is, you want to notice it, you want to acknowledge it, and you want to own it. That's step one. Wow, I've had this conversation my whole life. Money's the root of all evil. I can get that. I don't know where it came from. I don't care. It's not important, but I can see that conversation just shows up every time I talk about money. Own it. Say it out loud. I own that conversation. It's been part of my life for 30 years, however long it's been. Step one. Step two, and this is the hardest step, let it go. Give it away. I let go of, I surrender and give up that negative conversation into the care of the universe, into the care of God, into the care of what the trees, the forest, whatever it is. And I've watched people, I've worked with people as they're going to say it and they literally can't get the words out of their mouth because we're so addicted to that. It's like cutting off an arm. You know, it's been with me for 30 years. I'm comfortable with this conversation. So it's breaking that addiction as we say it and release it out into the universe or wherever we're releasing it to. And you say it and you say it and you say it until you feel a sense of relief or release as it's going away. That's step two. Then step three is now, what is the new relationship that you want with money? And for me, it was very clear. Money flows to me easily and abundantly every single day. And I could feel it. And this is so important. It's not just like a rote, money flows to me easily. Affirmations. You've got to feel your affirmation. You have to feel it in your heart, in your soul. You'll feel your energetics shift. You might get tingly, but you will feel it. Money flows to me easily and abundantly every single day. That's step three. Now, step four is what we were talking about earlier is now allow it into your life. Look for it. See it. Every opportunity, then every moment that it starts to show up or the potential for it to show up, show that gratitude, acknowledge it, be thankful for it, be grateful for it. Now, that old conversation will never go away completely. It will get quieter and quieter and less frequent, less powerful. And every time it does show up, same 3 steps, acknowledge and own it, let it go again. And here's who I am with money. Here's what money is for me. And then go out and look for it and express that gratitude for it.
Wow, just amazing stuff. We are talking to Pericles Rellas, prosperity coach. And folks, if you're not listening to this, or if it went over your head, go back and listen to what Pericles just said. This is amazing. But you know what you said earlier about appreciating abundance to show up, I feel like your appreciation twin because I have been a runner for 45 years and I run outside. And year after year after year after year, like you, I have found coins and bills on the ground. And I do the same thing every time. If it's a penny, I stop my watch, I pick up the penny, and I go, infinite love and gratitude to the universe for showing me this symbol of universal wealth, prosperity, and abundance. And I actually have a jar of just money that I've found. And yes, it's you really do need to show appreciation for it. But some beautiful, beautiful information, and thank you for that.
Of course.
And so, here's the other thing too. You already stated this a couple times, but I really would like to pursue this a little bit more. The most classic line of all, much of the world still believes is money is the root of all evil. Why is this fallacy so omnipresent in humankind's mind?
Yeah, this is I think this is a generational mindset. And this is something that there's this really important distinction that I want people to get, that money is not good and money is not evil. Money is just money. Electricity is not good. Electricity is not evil. Wind is not good or evil. It's just money. It's inert. Money will amplify the personality traits that we allow ourselves to exhibit. So we all have a propensity for being good and we all have a propensity for being evil. We all have a choice in which one of those traits we're going to lean into. When people make money, those personality traits get amplified by the money. The money isn't doing anything. It's like holding a magnifying glass up. That's all it is. There's nothing good or evil about the magnifying glass. It just is what it is. But those traits get amplified. So case in point, we see people who are wealthy who oftentimes start treating people horribly. They're rude, they're inconsiderate, they become more and more selfish, they become more and more greedy, they become less appreciative, and we start to look at them in a way, and then we make the decision, the judgment, that it was the money that did it. It's not the money that did it at all. We then see them, if we start to dissect it, surrounding themselves with people and people who are attracted to them, who are willing to shore up those behaviors. They become sycophants or yes men and women. They'll say, yes, oh gosh, you're so smart, Carl. Oh, Carl, yes, absolutely. Even when they're doing horrible things, yeah, they deserved it. They don't respect you the way they should. They don't appreciate who you are in this world. And so those behaviors get even more and more amplified. And we see it play out where people who have been very fortunate in earning money in a specific area think they now are the smartest person in the room on any subject. And the people around them are willing to empower that. And then on the flip side, we look and we see there are lots of people who have lots and lots of money who are very magnanimous. They're very generous. They're kind. They're loving. They give and give and give, not just money, but they give of their time, they give of their wisdom, they give of their love and caring. And they surround themselves with people that empower that will not allow them to behave otherwise, and who will call them out and tell them the truth. And it's that amplification that we see. Now, generally, we don't look at them and say, wow, money made them really good. We just say, oh, well, they're just really good people who happen to have a lot of money. So we don't have the same judgment on both sides. It's skewed. But again, money had nothing to do with it. Because I know people that are extraordinarily generous who have very little money. And they're not giving of money. They're giving of their time, their wisdom, their love. Right? And I know a lot of people who have a lot of money or not a lot of money, and they're not good people as we would judge good people, right? So it isn't the money, it's the person. What personality traits are you going to lean into? And what personality traits are you going to feed? Like the old Buddhist, I think it's Buddhist, it's, I have two tigers. One of them wants me to do good and one of them wants me to do evil, and I don't know what to do. Well, which tiger are you going to feed? It's that simple. Which tiger are you going to feed? Are you going to feed the one that does bad, or are you going to feed the one that does good? When we feed the one that does good only, the one that does bad starves and diminishes. And so again, money is not good or evil. Money is just simply a magnifier of who we choose to be. So choose who you want to be and don't worry about the money. The money will show up if you choose to have money flow into your life. And then whatever personality trait you choose to exhibit, is what will get exhibited by the money or amplified by the money.
And I love that you pointed out earlier that money is not good, is not evil, or like electricity is not good or bad. Reminds me, I once heard Bob Proctor say about microwave can either cook a roast for the man or cook the man himself.
Right, exactly. Yep.
And so, but But I would like to, just again talking about the statement that many people believe money is the root of evil. Money is the root of all evil. I would think a lot of that too goes back to a religious dogma. A lot of people have been taught that it's bad to have money,
Hmm.
be poverty and give all to everybody. Yeah.
Right. And again, this is where we start to get into the real deep spiritual side of the conversation. And there are people, and I'm not speaking against any religion in any way, shape, or form, or any belief system or dogma, but what we want to do is look for ourselves and look to see, who am I going to be in my life? This is why I say when we create a new relationship with money, we'll actually create a new relationship with ourselves. And this is where that deep spiritual conversation starts to come to play, is as I start to see what role money plays in my life, I can then see who I am authentically and who I want to be in my life. And one of the things that people say to me when I'll say to somebody, okay, what would you do if I gave you $1 million free and clear? They say, well, I'd give a lot of it to charity. Well, immediately I can hear that they've got a block in the flow of money, that there is something inherently evil about money that they need to then counteract by giving away a certain amount of it, as if that somehow makes it okay. But that's just a block in the flow of money. Can we actually get clear on that money is not evil? Money is not good. Money is just, like we talk about electricity, right? And I can interact with electricity all day long and be a good person or be a bad person. Has nothing to do with the electricity. Has everything to do with me. So am I a good person in my life? Am I somebody that can go to bed at night knowing that I lived my life well? I lived my life consistently with who I want to be in the world. And are people looking at me from the perspective of, oh, well, he's got money and he's bad, or he's got money and that's what makes him good? Or are they clear that it has nothing to do with the money and has everything to do with who I am and the actions that I take? Because look, to be honest, we can see people every single day who say they're religious in a certain way, and it's whether they go to church or they go to temple or they go wherever they go, and they go once a week or twice a week or 3 times a week, but their actions every single day are inconsistent with that. They don't treat people well. Their actions are actually the exact opposite of that. So those actions of going to church or going to temple or saying that you're ex-religion has absolutely no impact on who you are in the world. Your actions are what actually create who you are in the world. So as we go back to Abraham Hicks, or we go back to the teachings of the Buddha, our thoughts then lead to our words, which lead to our actions. And at the end of the day, our actions are what define us. We can look at someone and see what they're physically doing every single day, how they're speaking to people and about people every single day. And that is what's going to define them. I don't care what they do on a Sunday. I care about what they do every other day of the week. I don't care what random thoughts pop into your head. I care about what thoughts you choose to focus on, which tiger you choose to feed, and then which actions you take as a result of the tiger that you're feeding. That's what's going to matter in the world. One of my original mentors, Candace, used to say that. I don't want your apology. I want you to not punch me in the face in the first place. And it's that simple. What are you going to do every single day, and who are you going to be?
Wow, everything you said has such really beautiful, deep, spiritual, energetic, and metaphysical ramifications. I'm so glad about this. But, your actions are results of your deeply ingrained paradigms. And I think this is one of the reasons that if you are lacking, we're talking about finances here, about money. If you're lacking in that area, then go back and look at those deeply embedded paradigms, which we all basically are become ingrained in our brain by the time we're 7 years old. But you're not too old to go back and change that and look at them.
Correct. All we need to do is bring critical thinking. We move things from that automatronic part of our survival brain into the frontal cortex, where we're actually thinking about something. And in that moment, and this is something that Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about in his world of meditation and quantum physics and quantum field. This is extraordinarily powerful stuff. When something works automatically, and an example for me, when I was growing up, and you were saying 7 years old, I was probably 6. We were watching a show called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. And you probably remember it. And so I remember this particular episode was about this famous or wealthy family and how their lives were just a mess. They were just broken, even though they had all this money. And at the end of the show, my mom said, very casually, very nonchalantly, no agenda, I never want to have that kind of money. You'll lose your whole family.
Wow.
And in that instant, that 6-year-old boy made a decision. I didn't know I made that decision, but subconsciously I made that decision. I never am going to have a lot of money because I don't want to lose my family. I love my family. Well, now when I got older and I started creating this education, that was one of the first things that came up for me was like, oh my gosh, I have this block in the flow of money. It's become my glass ceiling. And I needed to own it, release it, and create a new relationship with money. But I needed to bring it out of that survival part of my brain into the critical thinking. Now, it's not just critical thinking that makes the difference. It's a big part of it. We need to move from the dogma, from the recited stanzas that we've been memorizing and saying over and over and over again to, wait a minute, what does this really mean? And how is this impacting me? Or how is this impacting the world around me? That then brings it to our heart, allows us to really start to think about, wow, look at how this has been impacting me and blocking me and stopping me from doing the things that I want. Then we can start to create a whole new relationship in whatever that is. And as a side note, that circular, flow of money is the same thing with love. Love flows in a circle. Joy flows in a circle. Happiness, fulfillment, contentment, peace of mind, confidence, they all flow in a circle. And what blocks do we have? Where are we stopping love from coming into our life? Where am I not allowing somebody to share love or express love in my life? That's going to block love in my life. Where am I not expressing love? That's going to block love in my life. So we can look and clear those blocks in the flow in any area of our life simply by seeing, okay, where am I stopping it from coming to me? Where am I stopping it from going away from me? And by clearing those blocks, we suddenly have an experience of it much more abundantly in our lives.
Yeah, and everything you just said goes back to your 4 keys that you were talking about. I mean, you just kind of explained it in a different way there.
Right. When we look at what is it we need to do to clear those blocks, we can then start to open up our world. And rather than saying, well, love never shows up in my life, nobody loves me, I don't have love anywhere, we start to see, wow, so-and-so's been trying to express love in my life and I've been killing it off. Now, I'm not saying you have to go love everybody in your life, but can you let love into your life and be responsible for the love coming into your life, whether it's a parent or a friend or a family member or someone who wants to be a significant other, right? And then where are you not expressing love? Where are you being selfish and pinching love off? Like, I don't want them to think I like them at all. I don't want them to know that I love them. They don't deserve it. Well, all of those things are going to block that flow of love in our lives in general. So again, we want to move from that automatronic to the frontal cortex and then ultimately into our heart, because when we're from our heart center, that's when we start entering that quantum field. And that's where that vibrational frequency starts to get out into the world and into the universe. And we can touch anything in the universe we want in an instant.
Wow, this is just wonderful stuff. Are you sure you're not a psychotherapist?
No, not.
Pericles, I love having you on the show. I'm so glad that you came on here. I would like to ask you this. Personally, what is the biggest and most memorable experience or idea that helped you to set yourself on a solid financial path?
I think it was that moment when I saw or remembered that conversation that my mom, or that phrase that my mom said, I never want to have a lot of money. You'll lose your whole family. That was the kind of the keystone of the foundation of everything that I started to build. And then it was seeing again other conversations. Another one, and I'm not throwing my mom under the bus at all. I love my mom. She's 90. I see her every single day, but she was just repeating things that she had learned from her parents and probably from their parents to her parents, and it was it's always something.
Yeah.
Oh, it's always something, right? And that mindset of, well, it's always something. So we make some money and then something shows up and it takes that money away. And we can start to identify the, oh my gosh, it's like black and white. I had somebody I was working with years and years ago, and for them, it was the same thing. Their financial thermostat was set at a certain level because it was always something. And she was just sharing with me that she'd gotten this $1 million contract. She was so excited. It was a huge breakthrough for her. A week later, she got an invoice from the IRS for $1 million for something that she hadn't paid years and years before. And until we cleared that block out, that it was always something, that was what was going to always repeat itself. And so for me, it never ends. I keep seeing things. There's a new level, there's a new layer. It's like an onion that just keeps getting unpeeled and unraveled. And it's a journey of adventure and excitement. And it's never oh God, I'm so stupid. Oh, I'm never going to get, because that's us just beating ourselves up. And we've all got master's degrees, doctorates, and beating ourselves up. Can you actually be kind to yourself as you go through this journey, as you go through this process, and reveal or uncover the things that have been blocking the flow of money in your life?
You're saying that it's always something, reminds me of a couple other phrases that I occasionally catch myself saying, but I hear many other people going, which indicates they're already in a negative mindset. Like something happens and they go, of course you did that. Or it's not surprise me, because they're expecting failure.
Yes. And we do that to ourselves. And then we surround ourselves with people that reinforce that, right? So if we have people around us that are constantly trying to tear us down, are constantly, why are you even doing that? That's not going to work. You're not going to follow through. Those people are around us because we attracted them. And those people are around us and interacting with us the way they interact with us because we've trained them to interact with us that way. And that's the bad news. The good news is, because we did that, we can now retrain them or attract new people into our lives consistent with the new vibrational frequency that we've created. And this is a challenge sometimes, because oftentimes I'll have people say, yeah, but my parents, I get that. But if your parents are tearing you down every single day, every single time you interact with them, that's on you. That's not your parents. That's on you. So what are you going to do about it? You have a couple of different ways of dealing with this. You can then have conversations with them about, you know what? I don't appreciate it when you say this and this and this to me. And I would like you to stop doing that. And doing it in a kind and generous way, doing it from your heart, right? And then ultimately they will work inside of this new framework. It'll be a challenge because they're used to interacting with you a certain way. Now you're asking them to do something new. That can be a challenge for them. Have compassion for them as they go through this process. Understand that they're doing something new that they didn't ask for. We're on our journey because we asked for our journey. Now we're asking them to get on this path with us, so that can be even more challenging. So give them time, allow them to work it out, but don't allow anyone to abuse you. Don't allow anyone to treat you in a manner that's inconsistent with who you are and how you want to be treated. That is just on you. And so you want to start creating boundaries. You want to create new ways of interacting with people and asking them to interact with you. And they will either conform to that, or they will select themselves out, or you will have to select them out. But if you want to have a world that's consistent with who you are, you will need to take these actions. You don't have to take these actions. You just will be undoing the work that you want to do. You'll be working against the flow. You'll be pinching yourself off from that universal flow that you want to attract.
Well, one thing I'm fascinated by is this term that you use, and I believe it's even part of your website name, the financial thermostat. How did you come up with that term, and why that term?
Yeah, I think originally I called it a condition, and you spoke to it in the very beginning. And as I developed this more and more and more, I realized I needed something that people could relate to more effectively, and condition didn't do it. And I have a thermostat in my room and in my house and in my car and on the oven. And, I'm like, whoa, this is exactly what our condition does. It's a thermostat. It's set at a certain amount of money. And the minute we make more money, that AC kicks on and it's got to get rid of that money. It's the reason we see lotto winners going broke. Usually 70 to 80% of them go broke within the first 4 to 5 years because their financial thermostat is not set for that kind of money. And so what they have to do is start disappearing and disappearing and disappearing and disappearing money until it comes back down to that setting. And the same thing with saving money. I know a lot of people, worked with a lot of people, they can make lots and lots of money, but that money disappears and they can never save more than they're able to save. Or people who have the same state around money. They're always annoyed, they're always upset, agitated, worried, stressed, anxiety around money. Well, those are all part of that financial thermostat setting. And once we see what it's set at, and this is the really easy part, folks, if you're listening or watching, just look at how life is for you around money. How much can you earn? How much can you keep? What are your emotional states around money? That will tell you what your setting is very quickly, very easily. Now you want to look at clearing those blocks in the flow that we talked about earlier. That will start to reset your financial thermostat so you can earn more, you can keep more, and you can have that sense of joy and happiness in your life.
This goes back to, you kind of touched on this with that statement by your mom when you were 6. I always wondered if deeply embedded beliefs in financial lack and poverty can be passed down from generation to generation. And even it seems to be with entire cultures. I mean, there are certain cultures, they always want to discount, they always got a bargain, they claim they don't have any money. It just seems to not spread like electricity through an entire culture.
Yeah, these are generational mindsets. These are generational financial thermostat settings that we don't even think about, right? They just show up. And so we say the same things. There was somebody who was telling me that when they were a kid growing up, their mom used to cut the back of the ham off before putting it in the pan. And she couldn't understand why she did that. Her mom's, it makes it taste better, I think. And so this person finally went to her mom and said, Grandma, why do you, mom does this? Why do you, I used to do that because I didn't have a pan that was big enough. Right. And so we make up stories about why things are done a certain way, and then we just continue doing it rather than bringing critical thinking to, do I really need to do this? Is this something that is going to forward whatever it is that I'm committed to? And it's the same thing about our money conversations. We're having conversations today that our great grandparents had when they were young and didn't understand money. So breaking those generational mindsets, those resetting those generational thermostats, financial thermostats, really, really important. And again, it goes same thing with love, same thing with joy and happiness. You're never going to be happy. You might as well just get used to it. Gosh, how many times do we hear our parents saying that or our grandparents saying that? But there's a moment in life where we can break that cycle and create something new. But it requires us stopping and thinking and then creating.
Yeah, another aspect too even reading A Course in Miracles, it might have been stated that we may want money or abundance, but it's not so much the money that we want; it's the experience of that we expect, the happiness and the joy that's what we really want, and that's where it comes back. The money is simply a vehicle to the experience of what you want in happiness and joy.
Yes, and this is such a great. If there's nothing else people get from this conversation, it's that money will never bring you happiness. It will never bring you love. It will never bring you security. It's an illusion that we live inside of, and it's a hamster wheel that we get on. If I just make enough money, I'll be happy. If I just make enough money, I'll be secure. If I make enough money, I'll find love. And we get on this hamster wheel, and I've made 100,000. I'm still not happy. Well, maybe it's 200,000. Well, it's 300,000. And we just keep running on this hamster wheel. It's just like going back to my relationship scenario, expecting your significant other to rebuild the engine block. when they've never even looked in an engine at an engine before in their lives. We expect them to provide us with something that they could never provide us because it's not in their realm. Well, we wouldn't do that. Well, we expect money to provide us with things that it cannot provide us. And so going back to what you're saying is, yeah, I'd love to go on that vacation because it make me so happy. I'd love to have this beautiful painting because it would make me so happy. Well, you know what? I can have happiness without the vacation. I can have happiness without the picture. Long before I get those things, what would that be like? You're actually on the path to the vacation, and I'm joyful and happy right now. Then when I do get the vacation, it's icing on the cake. It's even that much better. So we want money because we think it'll bring us joy and happiness. Great. What if you had joy and happiness right now without the money?
Yeah.
Then what would it be like? It would be so much easier for that money to flow to us that when we did get the money, we realize, whoa, I already have joy and happiness. Well, now what do I want this money for? We're now in a different conversation. We're in a different conversation emotionally, spiritually, physically around this thing that we've now gotten that we thought we needed to get what we already have. Right? Then the world shifts and our relationship to it shifts. Our relationship to the money shifts. We become a different person. Our relationship to it becomes a different relationship, and our relationship to the world around us becomes different. That's why this conversation is so important.
So what I'm hearing you say is if you're grateful, gratitude will release the blocks of that eternally flowing stream of well-being, wealth, prosperity.
To a certain extent, we do need to deal with those blocks that we've got in the flow that we keep hearing. So I can be eternally grateful, but not you, Pericles. You're too stupid. You don't deserve it. Those things that show up, the minute you hear it, and for those of you who are listening, you will hear it. Some of them will be easier to identify because they're there ongoingly. Other ones, you may not be able to identify. You may not be able to hear it that clearly, that distinctly, but you will know there's an it there. So I don't want people thinking, oh, I can't do this because I know there's something there, but I don't know what it is. I can't hear what it is, but it's there. Great. Deal with it. Use that word it. That's what it is. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it came from, but it's there. I can own it and I'm letting it go. I'm handing it over to the universe to handle. It is no longer in my world. It no longer has dominion over me. It no longer has power over me. I am releasing it into the care of the universe to do with as you please. And you can feel that relief, that release. Now you get to create. So don't worry about it not being able to identify it. I've worked with people who are in therapy their whole life trying to figure out why they are the way they are. Spent a fortune on why they are. And then they figured out, oh, I know why I'm that way. Great. Did that make a difference? No, but I know why I'm that way. That's not the key. And I'm not diminishing therapy. It's extraordinary. Use it if it works for you. But don't use it as an excuse to not get the outcome that you're looking for. Don't spend your life trying to figure out it when figuring out it is not important. Just surrender to it, let it go, and then create what you want. And that's the story you tell about your life from that moment forward.
We have been speaking to Pericles Rellas, a money mindset prosperity coach. First one we've ever had on the show, but I think he's part psychotherapist, law of attraction coach, and a quantum physicist. All rolled
You're
into
too kind.
And this is just great. I'm so grateful to have you. I mean, with such beautiful wisdom that we can all latch on to and become wealthy in many, many, many ways, not just in money wise. But, you know, I want to ask you, Pericles, how can people get in touch with you? What is your website?
Yeah, they can go to two different websites. They both go to the same place. They can go to periclesrellas.com or they can go to resetyourfinancialthermostat.com. Both will end up on periclesrellas.com. And just as a bonus, right there at the front page is a link to my free masterclass, The 4 Keys to Resetting Your Financial Thermostat. And it will give you everything you need to actually reset your financial thermostat and set you on the path to having and creating that kind of wealth and prosperity that you want in your life.
Yeah, that is fantastic. And I will definitely put all those links in the show notes so people can connect with you. And Pericles, you're amazing. Thank you for your beautiful wisdom and what you're doing for the world.
Carl, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified law of attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.